Hey everybody, my name's Tony Bacigalupo. I'm here with Alex Ahom of Shhared in Hamburg. Say hi, Alex.
Hi everyone.
Awesome.
Live from Hamburg.
What's that?
Live from Hamburg.
Live from Hamburg, that's right. So this was born of a Facebook Messenger chat that Alex and I had a few weeks back about, I guess we were talking about Co-working Europe conference, and it ended up becoming a whole existential conversation on the profitability of co-working spaces, which I think
Exactly.
we're going to get to that in the course of this conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, but Alex was just asking me about the Co-working Compassion Project.
Yeah, very exciting. I think I saw a tweet about it yesterday or the day before, and I think yourself, Alex Hillman, Chris Cooley, a few guys are getting together, and also Kat as well. So she's great. She's very involved, pushing the movement forward, and it's good to see everyone getting together and just creating another initiative that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and Iris Kavanaugh and Ramon Suarez as well. Maybe some more people to come. Yeah, you know, it's born of the tensions that we've been seeing in our society lately. There's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of separateness, and I know that co-working spaces can eradicate that kind of separateness. And so I feel like it just makes a lot of sense for us to try to find people who are trying to go out there and make opportunity more available to more people and create more connections between diverse groups of people. And we happen to all be people who have things to offer those people. So all the people who are involved in the Co-working Compassion Project are experienced co-working professionals, and they have something to offer. They're consultants, they're coaches, they have intellectual property, materials, and each of them has agreed to chip something in to deserving applicants. So I'm excited for that. I think it's going to help a few projects really get off the ground and hopefully make a big difference somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great to have all these different people with different experiences pushing together and being able to kind of give back to the co-working community, all the experiences and things they've learned over the years. So as you said, they are experienced professionals, and they are good at what they do. They're professionals, and it's exciting times to see people band together and to serve more people who are looking for these insights. So well done. Hats off to you guys.
Thank you. So I'm curious, how are things going for you at your space? And I want to then take it to, how are things going in Europe? What are the big burning questions over there that we can get answered and make it feel valuable to everybody who's tuning in?
Yeah, well, so Shhared, as you mentioned, thanks for the introduction. Shhared is, we're here in northern Germany, so Hamburg, second biggest city in Germany, which is one of the biggest countries in Europe population-wise. And so Shhared is just over 2.5 years old. And first and foremost, I'm really proud and delighted to be able to do this. It's a success already to have an idea at home and then be able to make it a reality. I know a lot of people have ideas and dreams, aspirations, and sometimes they're not able to do them and bring them to life. So always when people ask how are things going, I have to kind of preface it with the fact that it's always going in a good direction when you're able to bring your dreams into realities. And you shouldn't be too hard on yourself if you're not rich yet, or if you haven't empowered 100 startups or 1,000 freelancers yet. As long as you're alive, you still have the possibility to move forward and make things better. And I think a lot of the progress we've made in the last kind of 6 to 9 months has come through conversations like this. So again, I'm really excited about the future and excited about the next 2 years. It's been 2.5 years, and I'm excited about the next 2.5 years. So we're coming up to our 3rd birthday in a few months, and I remember last year, it goes so quickly. I wrote a blog about what I'd learned in the first 2 years. A lot of it was about learning from disappointments, learning from failures, learning from conversations that you have with co-workers, with potential partners. Yeah, I started it kind of on my own from scratch. So there's lots of learning there, and lots of learning that I'd love to pass on to people if they're interested. But the next stage is about growth and about empowering more people with the knowledge that we've learned in the first two years. But yeah, I'm happy.
Awesome. Yeah, I tell people when they're telling me that they're stressed out about running their space, that just every single day that you open the doors is a special day that you're really helping to change people's lives. So I love that perspective that you have. You know, I guess if someone asks how you're doing and you exist, then you're doing well. You're doing well enough to be there, and that's important. So I really
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's important to tell that story because that there are majority of spaces, they are kind of independent and small, and of course the majority of the media attention is on the mega international spaces that have millions, hundreds of millions, and in some cases billions of euros or dollars of investment. So there's a bit of a disparity about the reality of co-working in the media. And yeah, so of course we're going to talk about profitability and things like that. But at this end of the scale, certainly as long as you're open, you still have a fighting chance of continuing to be open, which may not be the case when you owe the bank or investors hundreds of millions of dollars. But yeah, I certainly, my background, I have quite a diverse background. And when it comes to community stuff versus business stuff, I really don't find I'm conflicted at all. I see Shhared as an active community of people, but we all have our own business interests as well. We want to grow. As a lot of people have business, whether we have artists, we have journalists, illustrators, as well as the tech people, and so many different kinds of people in design, media, technology, but they all want to live. They want to make a living, and they want to make friends and connections at the same time. So I think all of this stuff can be connected. It shouldn't be one or the other, money or community. And we'll move on to that, of course. But sustainability is one of the core values of co-working, as well as community. I think we have to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what do you think in terms of where things are going in the co-working world in Europe in particular? What's on the minds of the people who are there, as far as kind of burning questions?
Yeah, I think I really in the last year or so, people, and maybe before, community has been the hot word when it comes to co-working in the co-working circles. How to build community. And a huge focus on community. As I said, I think the next one of the 5 core values is sustainability. A lot of people are saying, okay, well, I have a community of some size. It may not be hundreds of members or people in the space, but we have some kind of community. How do we keep it ticking over? How do we keep it growing? How can we maintain what we have and be sustainable? So people are asking this question. So I think from the bigger spaces in the UK, in Spain, a small handful of big spaces in Germany, but I think they are all asking the same question: how can we be sustainable and kick on from what we have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think sustainability is probably something that it seems like a lot of people, especially in the smaller co-working space world, that we don't necessarily consider it first. It's very easy to kind of get this idea of, oh, there's this great co-working space. I can do a co-working space, and let's do it. And then, there's a bit of a disconnect of, well, where is this going to go? Where does this end up? And I think, like I could kind of give myself a pass on this, because when I did it, there were no answers. But now there are sustainable paths. There have been kind of examples of people who've proven sustainable paths, or to not do something sustainable at all. You don't have to build something that lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
You might just need to make peace with the fact that you're doing something that's going to go away one day, or at least change forms. You know, one of the things that I've seen is that, you know, perhaps if a co-working space closes, that the community continues to live on, but it lives on in a different form. And so there's kind of a couple of different ways to play it. But I feel like anybody who's a co-working space owner should at least evaluate where they're at as far as their sustainability is concerned. And if they don't have a good answer to what their long-term picture is, then start coming up with one. And I think that you know, that could make a huge difference in terms of how easy you sleep at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think definitely knowing yourself, knowing your truth, knowing your journey, those are all important parts of business in general. And I think many spaces definitely see themselves as businesses, so it's important to make that distinction. And I think what you said is completely right. Some businesses are meant to or will stand the test of time and be around for decades. Others do great work, and their lifespan is much shorter. And you know, again, talking about Hamburg, I know of a space that was doing really well. And what does that mean by doing well? But the community was very tight, very friendly with one another, and also on the business side of things, the people in the community they were doing good work. Their businesses were growing, their freelancing projects were growing. They were happy, but some kind of structural changes, structural problems at the space led to the space closing down. But the people in that space, it's a small space, but the people in the space are still working together in different places. Sometimes they come here, sometimes they go to other places, work from home, but they're doing it together. And that's also a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and if you want to build something sustainable, there's options. You know, I think probably one of the most prevalent ones we've seen now is simply operating a larger facility, offering more private office spaces, things like that, which I was opposed to for the longest time. But I think that ultimately it can help to subsidize what could be a very sustainable community space. And if you do a good job of curating that community, then even the folks in the private offices can be a really huge positive to the culture of the space. And then, you know, obviously there are lots of other models. There are education-based ones and hybrid ones. So one of the ones that I'm a big fan of, and actually you see it a lot in Italy with Massimo and his co-op project.
Yeah.
This hybrid of people who are working from an agency perspective, where they're working in an agency kind of a space, and then they share some of their extra space with people who want to come co-work. And so in that way, like an agency already has an office, or they already need an office, and they have this need to source new projects, hire new talent, all of that. And then you've got people who work for themselves who want to, in a lot of cases, work for an agency like that, or might have a gig for those people. And so that's kind of a model where they feed each other, and no one side of the business is going to let the other side go out of business. So it's really super supportive. So I think, you know, actually that could be a great answer to someone who might be watching this who's running a small space. If you don't want to go into the big real estate world, is you know, maybe befriend some of the agencies in your city, get to know some of them, and see if there's a way that you can share space with them, and maybe move into a space together in some way or something like that, where they could be the anchor tenant, and you could work out something to operate your co-working community from within that space. And that could kind of set you up for a much longer shelf life, I think.
Yeah, I think that I think it's something like 75% of the average co-working spaces expenditure is on money, on rent. So it's a lot of the cost of many spaces these days is going on rent. So if there's a way to not get too deep in the real estate scenario and spending so much money on rent by you know, leveraging the relationships you have in your space, that can definitely help with sustainability. And yeah, I think the word sustainability, I think in different places has different connotations. I know definitely at my time at Apple, the word was really used around well, people with disabilities. Sorry, that's accessibility. Sorry, but sustainability also is a word that is has another meaning. So when we talk about sustainability, we're also talking about things like recycling and the things about the earth. So you have to be mindful of how actually they both can play a part. So, for example, in Hamburg, it's quite a left city, quite a green city, one of the greenest cities in Europe. So a lot of people can bond and form that community sense over sustainability issues in the sense of green things and earth and earthly matters. I know that one of the other spaces in Hamburg, they organized a kind of a beach cleanup. So we have a very small beach in Hamburg. It's kind of just this one sandy bank of the port. And in the summer, of course, it's a nice place to go. And this space organized a cleanup walk. So they invited many of their community members to go down to the beach, walk along the beach, and clear up all the garbage and mess. And then they would bond and have a beer afterwards. That was great. So there are different things to consider in a community, in a co-working community. So the sustainability situation with accessibility, like you said, if your space is accessible to different kinds of people, that can definitely help with running the space and also the bills. Different people can thrive off each other. For example, here we have one of the teams. Yeah, they're doing kind of websites and apps and stuff, and they often need freelancers. They often need photographers. They often need design experts. And so if they do communicate with the people in the open space from their office, from their fixed room, from their team room, that can help their fortunes, and it can also empower the people in the open space as well. So more collaboration, more accessibility, it definitely moves the whole thing forward.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what do you think in terms of where things are going from here? Like, what do you want to see happen for the co-working movement, for the co-working spaces, people who are organizing things now?
That's a good question. I think a lot's happening, especially in Europe. I think Europe has the most number of co-working spaces, if you compare it to other continents. So many different countries, and they're doing a lot of different kind of things. So the UK or London has the most co-working spaces per square mile than any other city. Barcelona and Spain also have a huge number. You mentioned Italy and Germany as well. So because of those different cultures, there are different things at play. But consolidation is happening a lot at the moment. A lot of specialized co-working spaces. We organized the first co-working bus tour of Hamburg a few months back. So we organized with the city a tour, 3 coaches to go around the city and visit various different kinds of spaces. We split them up into different categories to help people who would go on the tour. So we had kind of one tour was going to specialized ones, and there's a space that's great for people who are designing clothes and working in textiles. There's a space for people who design kind of architecture and things like that, and the arts. There are other more corporate spaces that are working closely with companies like aeronautical industry and the fashion industry. And then you've got your tech spaces as well. So you're going to see, I think, more of this specialization. And then, as I said, people trying to figure out ways to be more sustainable. So more smaller spaces outside of the central business district, connecting with others and growing that way. So as I said, it's exciting times.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's just so much more that we can do to be impactful in terms of the future how people work, how people relate to each other. Again, reducing divisiveness, kind of covered back to what we were talking about in the beginning. And, one of the things you talked about earlier too is, what do you do if you've been running a space for a while and you're trying to kind of keep some of that momentum alive? And I think I've seen this issue come up often where when we want to start spaces, we really get into this mindset of, okay, we're going to build this space. The space is going to make a big difference. And it does. You build the space is open now, you've got this thing. But then for the person who kind of catalyzed that in the beginning, the leader, you end up going from a place of offense of, we're going to go build this thing, to now kind of a defensive position of, well, now we need to maintain this thing. And it becomes more of a passive thing unless you find a way to stay active. And so one of the things that I noticed came up for me was that if I didn't do that, I got into a rut. I got into a tough spot where I had a hard time staying engaged. I had a hard time keeping my members engaged. It was hard to keep things exciting if all I was trying to do was operate a workspace. But if I did something new and different, if I started a specific program trying to go after a particular goal or something like that, I found that it was a lot easier for me to get excited. It was a lot easier to attract new members. And it kind of allowed me to find ways to continue to advance our mission. And so I'm a big fan of programming. I feel like the co-working spaces themselves are only as good as the things that happen in the spaces. And so, the more you're able to do cool stuff in your space, then the more exciting and fun it's going to be for everybody involved. And so I'm a huge fan of co-working with programming. And that's a lot of what I advocate for with the members of my organizers club, which I didn't even get to mention yet. But yeah.
Yeah, I think being excited about something is really important. And many people who start spaces, they're excited about the opportunities that they bring. And yeah, if you do get caught up in the day-to-day running and the operational stuff, then you're not so close to what got you excited in the first place. So I think, yeah, you have to find your why and keep on evolving that and keep on trying to add value, because there's a lot of value to be given out there. And yeah, if you're into programming, come up with more ways that you can spread that. And so being open about what you're passionate about and collaborating with people on it. Again, I think a great ways to stay active and to keep on pushing things forward. And that's why I'm such a big fan of the 5 core values, because there's so much there. Openness and collaboration kind of speak to me in this topic. If you're open about what you're passionate about, if you're open about that, then other people can connect with you on those matters. I saw a post, I think it was on Instagram, about the difference between a network and a community. And I think the example they gave was like business cards and LinkedIn, where when you just meet someone once, you don't really have anything in common. You take their card, you connect on LinkedIn. That's like a network, of people that, you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people in your LinkedIn network, but you don't really know much about them. And when you need them, you might try and contact them, but there's no strong connection there. And the community is a bit different. You have something really in common with these people, and it's usually something you're passionate about. And some of the best spaces I've been to, they have these clubs and groups that people really connect over, have a bond with programming, for example, or music or art or sports, and their friendship, their relationship starts from there, and it keeps them together. So definitely there's some magic in these places when these people get together and they're open about what gets them going, and working around these topics that they're really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that also kind of helps to answer the larger question of where's all this going and what's the sustainability and things like that. Because I think if you are staying true to your mission in whatever form it is, then you can kind of roll with the punches and you can adapt what you're building based on the circumstances. And, we don't know where all this is going to be going in the long run. So What we can know is that what people are going to need is always going to be generally the same thing. They're going to need belonging. They're going to need people to support them in their journey. We're going to, for a long time, have a need for learning things about how to work for yourself. I mean, there's such a wild west of change happening now away from traditional employment and towards this independent workforce, and really, I think, ultimately an interdependent workforce. And so just creating opportunities for people to help each other, make the connections that they need, and get out and be around other people. I think there's always going to be ways that people are going to want that, even if the form of that might change over time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's part of the reason why these spaces started in the first place. So I think people didn't really enjoy the commute so much. So I think a lot of people were commuting for half an hour, an hour, one way to get to work. So the location of people's work was an issue. And also what they were doing, how they were doing it. Was it something they were passionate about? So many people working just to pay the bill, so many people working themselves into the ground for something that they despise. So people started to kind of think about a solution for that, and co-working definitely is a solution for some of the bigger questions and bigger challenges that people have. So certainly, if through communication in spaces and communities, people can find ways to empower each other and get them excited about what they do and where they do it, we can all be kind of healthier, happier, and ultimately more productive. And in the last 9 months, I would say, I'm getting a lot more kind of contact from corporates, concerned, I would say, about their staff, and they feel that a lot of people think that co-working could be a solution to work-related stress, unfulfillment in work, drops of productivity. But I also think there are social things that it solves. We've had a lot of mothers who want to get back into work, families with children, people who want to have families, and they're saying, well, if I work in a traditional office, and I leave the office for maternal leave, they know it'll be hard to get back into work. Or even if they have their great normal scenario, just this distance you have to travel, and the lack of time you spend with your family, the lack of time you spend with your friends, the lack of flexibility from work, it's really an issue these days. And some of the people who are here, they're locals from the area, and they found a way for their work to fit to their life and not life to fit around their work. And they've seen that the productivity is higher, the quality of their work is higher, and when the kindergarten calls to say their child's sick, they can just leave. And when it's really great weather outside and they've had a productive day, they can just go for a run around the lake, and then go home and have an early lunch or early dinner. And it's great to see how co-working can empower people. And I'm delighted to have more of these discussions with people in HR, people in businesses, and regular people who really want to make a change in their life.
Yeah. So if you're, and I would say if you're watching this and you want to get started with a co-working community, either in any capacity, join one or start one or whatever it is, obviously Alex is a great resource. I'm here for you as well. And there's a whole world of people out there who are ready to support you and help you out. You can reach me at Tony, Tony, at nwc.co. And I also have an online network specifically for people who are starting and running co-working spaces. So would love to talk to anyone who's interested in that. Alex, is there a way that people can follow up with you?
Yeah, I have to kind of finesse this part and think of the best way to do it, because I'm all over social media. I have so many emails. So I have to think about which one I give out first. But I don't know. At the moment, I'm getting lots of contact through LinkedIn. So that's one way. So in any case, my name is Alex Ahom. So Alex, as everyone knows, Ahom, which is AHOM, Alpha Hotel Oscar Mike. So you can always find me on LinkedIn and connect with me, send me a message. A lot of people, companies are doing that at the moment. My email address is alex@Shhared. So Shhared is the name of the co-working space in Germany. So Shhared is SHHARED. So alex@shhared.de for Germany. Germany is DE, Deutschland. So alex@shhared.de. So yeah, you can find me. Just type in Alex Shhared, and I'm there. You know, but yeah. Those are two ways to get in contact, and I'm really happy to do that because when I started on this kind of co-working journey, without exaggeration, I think it was a day or two after I had the idea that I found you online and Alex. Somehow, I mean, I had this idea. It was like 11:30 at night, and I was on the phone to my cousin, and over this conversation, it was becoming apparent that there was something to this idea I had, and he actually challenged me, and he said, "Well, it sounds like a good idea to have a space where people can feel safe and encouraged to make their dreams a reality and." To enjoy what they do and where they do it. And that was kind of the premise of it. And a place where you can be supported to kind of be successful, not just to work, but actually be successful at what you do. So he said, well, it's a good idea. Are you going to do it? And I was like, well, I just had the idea. It's just an idea. I mean, and he was like, well, you've had the idea. You're always a person that says you should follow your dreams. Are you going to do what you say?
Yeah.
And he put me on the spot, and I was like, well, I just had the idea just now with you on the phone. So how about I sleep on it and I tell you what I thought about tomorrow? So he was like, okay, but let's talk tomorrow morning. And so he, I put the phone down and I was like, well, I can't think of many reasons not to do it other than the fact it's really, really hard and I don't know what I'm doing. But other than that, I would like to do it. And in life is short. My dad had just died, I think, at that point, like I think a few months before that. So, you're thinking of great things that you can do. And I've just moved to Germany, and it was quite tough here. So it seemed like something I had to do. I did a vlog on that on LinkedIn a few days ago. I felt like I had to do it. There was no other choice. But I encourage people to kind of think about that. And as I said, I started to research about what would you call a place that, that empowers people and supports people to chase their dreams and put their ideas into perspective and do them. And somehow it threw up your name. It's weird. But the moral of that story is I'm on the internet a lot, so I kind of know how to manipulate the internet to give me what I want. I know from so many discussions that most people can't do that, and I know how hard it is for people to find resources like you and other people who are willing to give their time and energy. And I would love it to be more accessible. Another one of the same core value of co-working. I'd love this playbook or this scenario to be more accessible to more people. And I think this is a good thing. We're starting this now.
Great. Well, I'm always looking out for ways to get the word out more. I'm on a mission to just see to it that there are great co-working spaces everywhere, and that the people who are running them are happy. And so anyone who wants to start one or is running one and wants to talk, I would love to talk to them. And any way to get this word out more, I am wanting to talk more about it. So definitely get in touch with me or get in touch with Alex, and let's keep the conversations rolling.
One of the things I think could happen is, when I had the idea, I also thought, well, if it's not an completely original idea, co-working, inverted commas exists. I have my own background. Let me join one, on the leadership team. Let me bring something real to the table. And I looked into it and I realized there weren't so many at the time. Now. But there weren't so many at the time. There's been, the curve has just gone like that. And the ones I found, they weren't so open to that. They were still in this phase where they think that everyone is a competition. I think now they're a bit more open. And I think now, so my point is, if anyone watching this is thinking about starting a space, I would think about joining spaces and speaking to founders, speaking to owners, speaking to them about their experiences, thinking about if you just want to be part of a community, if you have some skills and experience that you want to bring to a co-working space, you can also think about joining me, joining other people, joining Tony, joining other founders, joining their leadership team to try to build something that can have a lasting impact. I know a lot of people who can admit now that they make a great marketing CMO or whatever, or a great part of the leadership team, but starting something on their own from scratch wasn't the best thing for them. So again, definitely reach out to other people, and maybe joining an existing space is right for you.
Absolutely. And there's a whole world, a whole movement of people here. We're ready.
yeah. We'd love more people to join this conversation, and we've learned a lot. We've had some mistakes along the way, and we don't have to make more mistakes. We can empower new people with our experiences, for sure.
Right on. Alex, it's been awesome connecting. I feel like this is a good spot for us to hit stop on the recording and post it up. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a good place to stop. And, we had a few things that we wanted to cover. We haven't covered them all. So maybe it's another opportunity for part 2.
That sounds great. All right, well, stay tuned for part 2. Once again, Tony at nwc.co. Check out my stuff. Some free resources if you sign up on my website as well. And Alex Ahom, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right.